here on day 5 of our online conference, Inspired Are You Future Ready? We are, of course, diving into the theme of the future of sustainability. Joining us for this next session is the first person that I think of when it comes to the topic of partnerships, and that's Mr. Andrea. Now, how many of us, when we were in school, had this idea that one day we were going to become a partnership broker? Well, Andy started off that journey when he was doing armed conflict mediation early on in his career. He has since then worked for the United Nations as well as the World Economic Forum, and today he is founder and director of 2 of his own companies, Impact 17 as well as Alliance for Impact. Andy is also the president of the Sustainable Impact Association in Switzerland. Join us for this next session as Andy covers the topic of building stronger bridges, partnerships for sustainability. Thank you very much, Mr. Andy and Andrea, for joining us for this session. Andy is co-founder and director of Impact 17, Alliance for Impact, as well as, I believe, the president of the Sustainable Impact Association in Switzerland. I believe you are also formerly with the UN and with the World Economic Forum, so we are most appreciative of the vast experience that you bring to the table, especially when it comes to discussing the Sustainable Development Goals. And for today's session, we'll be focusing specifically on goal number 17, which deals with partnerships. And if I might just quote the description for goal 17, it is to strengthen the means of implementation and to revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. So Andy, with your experience and also for audience members who may not be too familiar with goal 17, and also given the fact that this particular goal consists of 19 targets, 25 different indicators, what is your take on what goal 17 means, and perhaps how at a base level, I should say, individuals can aspire to contribute towards its achievement?
Thanks, Nigel. I think what I can say is from a very personal perspective, and that is that I've always felt that if you have the right people in the room together with the right kind of support, then you can achieve almost anything. And that's been recognized now at a global level by global leaders. When they came up with SDG 17 on partnerships, which is the only SDG that is necessary for the completion of all the others and the achievement of all the other SDGs. That makes it sound very simple, and it's fantastic that there's been this global recognition for that. And I'm particularly pleased because anything that I have achieved in my life has always been on the backs of other people and helping them to work together. It's been the amount of time and the effort and the experience and the skills and the knowledge of these other people that I've been lucky enough to be involved with, but it's them that have been necessary. They have been the building blocks. But on their own, they can only achieve so much. That's what I'm talking about when you have, and it's quite obvious, if you've got the right people with the right experience and the right resources together, then you can make change happen. So that's the positive side of what I had to say. And I'm sorry to actually have a negative side too, but unfortunately that negative side is actually quite big when it comes to SDG 17. Although it's that global recognition, it does very little with all its targets and all its objectives to encourage and deliver on what it's trying to do. And I'll give you an example of that. Of the 19 targets, there are literally only 2 that have anything to do with enhancing and encouraging or promoting partnerships in any shape or form. That is target 17.16 and 17.17. And I'll just read you the text of the title of Target 16, which is to enhance the global partnership for sustainable development, complemented by multi-stakeholder partnerships that mobilize and share knowledge, expertise, technology, financial resources to support the achievement of sustainable development goals in all countries, and in particular, developing countries. Sounds great, doesn't it? Now, an indicator for that target is the number of countries reporting progress in multi-stakeholder development effectiveness frameworks that support the achievement of sustainability. It's not enough. That indicator is very shallow. All it is the number of countries reporting on something that has something to do with partnership. Back to that. The next target that is relevant, and there's only two, remember, in my opinion, and that is target 17 of 17. Encourage and promote effective public-private and civil society partnerships, building on the experience and resourcing strategies of partnerships. Again, sounds great, but the indicator is the amount of US dollars committed to public-private partnerships for infrastructure. And there is no data available on this, even today. So you see, it's not enough. What we really need to be doing is looking at who's partnering with who, what resources do they have, are they able to achieve impact through their partnering, are they collaborating with the right kinds of support? So we really need to dig deeper, and fortunately, we've been able to pull together a number of associate partners out there doing this kind of thing, who are at the academic level, they're studying what is required in partnerships. We have trainers who give various types of training support at the individual or group level for how to partner. And we have practitioners and brokers, and I guess we'll come to that in a minute, who help people to collaborate and to partner and to learn what to look for, how to manage the risks that are involved in partnering, and to look at the implications on complex systems of partnering as well. So great that there's global recognition, but there's a lot that needs to be done, that needs to filter down to the working level to make those partnerships, to create them, to support them, to promote them, and to help them achieve what they set out to do with these sustainable development goals.
Thank you, Andy. And I think what you mentioned about the targets and the indicators are very true, not just for goal 17, but for quite a few of the goals. A lot of it seems to be surface level or perhaps superficial. And I guess that allows me to kind of flow into the next question, and you alluded to this in what you've just said, this concept of partnership brokerage. Now, for audience members who may not be too familiar, this is more than just connecting the dots or deal. I mean, ourselves, right, international organizers of this conference, we did a consultation session with you recently, Andy, and my goodness, well, eyes open to the various facets of what constitutes a successful partnership. So could you perhaps then take this opportunity, describe some of the work that you do, as well as to sort of give the audience a better idea of what a successful partnership constitutes?
Of course, Nigel, thanks. And also thanks for giving me the opportunity. This platform is a great opportunity to talk about the work that we do and to showcase it. But I think first, what our approach is in those three organizations that you mentioned at the beginning is to try and make partnering easier. I said that there are some extremely intelligent people out there doing lots of academic research and publishing articles on partnering. And that can be a little bit scary because it seems so detailed and scientific that the normal person can't grasp what it's all about. But that needn't be the case. And so we've launched our own kind of introduction to partnering, an online course that puts the individual at the center of partnering and helps them to appreciate that all your life experiences you've been through put you in a unique position and an advantage to be able to partner in a good way. So that's the first thing to say. And a partnership broker is, it's a convenient term, and it's somebody, the way that we define that phrase, is somebody who's involved in partnering and can help others to partner. So you have the internal partnership broker. So that may be somebody who represents an organization in a partnership, and they have to work with their own colleagues inside their organization, as well as people doing the same job in the partnership. So it's learning how to interact with them. And if you have a common understanding of what partnership involves, that makes things a lot easier. So that's your internal and partnership broker. An external partnership broker may be somebody who's maybe independent to the partnership and provides it with good offices, or acts like a project manager or a facilitator. And in some cases, and in previous environments of it, you could call them an independent diplomat. So there's somebody that helps others work together, and it's quite useful for them to have a framework within which to work that helps others understand how to communicate with each other, what the value principles are of this partnership in particular, what the processes that they're following might be. And again, our approach is to keep that as simple as possible. In some cases, it can be designed on a daily basis what the partnership interaction is going to be from day one right through to the end and the achievement of the partnership. So everybody knows what role they're playing on every day and what they're meant to deliver, what the return on investment might be, and so on. We tend towards a more flexible and agile approach, which can be a little bit more difficult for the partnership broker, but for the people involved in the partnership, it requires some flexibility to react to changing processes, but they're given the tools and the confidence to be able to do that. So the partnership broker is change manager, a process manager, an intermediary, and so on and so forth. Now, with the three organizations that you mentioned, the first I should talk about really is Alliance for Impact. Now, Alliance for Impact offers a consultancy, a reactive consultancy that helps people with their partnership processes behind the scenes. It facilitates meetings on an ad hoc basis, and we're finding that we're particularly good at doing that online, especially, and which is quite useful in today's current climate. But what we found is that the approach that we take in making those online interactions output oriented is actually quite refreshing. And rather than having a thought leadership webinar that you can take or leave, and that's quite interesting, we actually deliver something in the process. Impact 17, which is the second social enterprise, has actually been developing a partnering framework. It's more of an off-the-shelf, so you could compare perhaps Alliance for Impact as being a kind of Microsoft version, and Impact 17 being more of an Apple type version. So we've developed a partnering framework. And what we've done is we've looked at the approaches of many other organizations, and we've collated and combined them, and we've stress tested them with partnership practitioners and experts as well, to make them relevant to today and to make them easy to use for a particular target audience. And then behind that framework are a list of questions that one needs to ask oneself about partnering and about a partnership to help them to be able to move forward and to address it and make it as effective as possible. And within that framework, we also provide convening opportunities. And I think Nigel, it's where we first met you, I think, was in one of our speed partnership network opportunities. And we'll be doing a lot more of those in the future. But those particularly aimed at organizations that want to achieve partnering, mainly international organizations and multinational companies, and helping them to collaborate. And then the association, the Sustainable Impact Association, is a non-profit organization based in Geneva that was originally created to help UN agencies and international organizations interact with the private sector to promote collaboration for humanitarian purposes. And it's now looking at how to help individuals, so young individuals, build their confidence and build their capacity to partner as well. So even with these three organizations, you can see that the approach to partnering is becoming more and more complex. So we're kind of undercutting ourselves in trying to make the process simple. But I think the point is we're trying to offer something to everybody so that they can engage in partnering.
That's fantastic work that you do, very comprehensive, but I'm sure a great burden on your shoulders as well. You cover everything from things like frameworks all the way to things like networking, as well as public-private partnerships, as you've mentioned.
I have to say, Nigel, that's very true, but we wouldn't be able to achieve this, the creation of partnerships and the support and the encouragement for partnerships without doing it through partnerships ourselves. So we have a group of associate partners that we've identified and we have tested as well. So some of them we've got many years of experience of working with, and others are new that we've got to know, and we trust them to deliver high quality services. So on every aspect of the support we provide, we've got a partner whose focus is that issue. And we believe they're the best in the world. So we can help our clients and the individuals that we want to help interact with them and get the best service that's possible.
Definitely. And I was just going to hop into my next question. You mentioned organizations, you mentioned the likes of the UN. But if we look at the current state of the world and how startups are mushrooming everywhere, various people from corporates or whether those have just graduated are intending to become independent workers, solopreneurs even. How do you see the work that you do being beneficial towards this group of people?
So, well, I think in two ways. One is that we're putting out and we're encouraging reflection on partnering. So anybody can challenge the status quo in how to partner. That's something that we just do as a way of encouraging partnerships. But I think that the best thing that anyone can do when they're looking to embark on a partnership is to have two things in their back pocket and one thing that is driving them forward. And the one thing that should be driving people forward is the confidence to be able to partner, and that partnering will actually help you. Only do it if partnering adds value. If not, do what you do alone. There are always alternatives to partnering. My belief is very often the benefits of partnering are not fully considered, and anyone can do it. So that's the one thing to have in mind. The two things to have in your back pocket are that can be useful is a general idea about partnering processes, kind of the cycle of partnering, how to start a partnership, how to keep people engaged, how to keep it motivated and focused, how to reflect on the process, how to feedback, develop and achieve the objectives in a cycle. And there are various partnership cycles out there. What we can do is help individuals to come up with their own and to develop that from what is already out there, what already exists. The second thing to have in your back pocket is a set of principles. And there are two kinds of principles that I'm talking about here. One is your own principles, because they are extremely valuable and they will guide the way you operate, the way you interact with others, and the way that others interact with you. And if you're clear about those principles from the beginning, everybody will understand them, and it will cause you less problems down the line. And it will also create more opportunities. So principles have two purposes. Humanitarian principles are a very good example of this. So humanitarian principles are enshrined in international law, and they apply to international organizations and governments especially. And what they do is they say these are ethical issues that need to be considered and they need to be taken on board. But they are also issues that will help you achieve humanitarian objectives. So they have a practical value as well as an ethical value. So number one on principles is to have your own clear, ready, well communicated. And the second is to look at partnering principles that others have come up with. And there are a number of those that we can talk about, and I'm happy to talk about them now. And I'll give you an example. One is on diversity. So you may have anxiety about differences within a partnership. And the area where we focus, the SDGs require it, is interaction between public sector and the private sector. Now, there are vast differences between those two sectors that can cause conflict and anxiety about collaboration. But if you embrace that diversity and you look for the values in the differences, then you can achieve so much more. And an example of that on the diversity front might be that businesses use certain operational models, business models, that are sustainable for businesses. That might be a beneficial thing for NGOs to look at and to learn from. Maybe not necessarily adopt, but to look at and learn from. But also, businesses may have, because they're very often embedded in local communities, they know those local communities very, very well, and they are major stakeholders in the success or the sustainability of that local economic environment. So that's one example, diversity. Others are principles around what we normally look at as equality. Now, I think it's, again, equality may not be the right word, because in a partnership there is a power imbalance. It's unavoidable. So maybe what you should be looking towards is something a little bit nuanced, which is equity. Now, the dictionary definition between equality and equity are quite good, but basically you're looking at fair consideration and stakeholder engagement in the process that everybody's engaged with. Another principle is openness, and obviously openness overcomes hidden agendas and helps to build trust. Another principle is looking at mutual benefit. Now, mutual benefit is quite an interesting one, because there's the mutual benefit or the mutual objective sometimes of the partnership itself. But the individuals and the individual organizations involved in a partnership often want more for themselves than that mutual objective. So it's useful to understand what each individual and individual organizations wants from the engagement in this partnership. And that can help overcome any negative undermining that comes from competition. An understanding of what others are trying to achieve helps everybody move forwards. And then the last one, I will combine, there's two words I want to combine together. One is courage and energy. The simple fact that a partnership has been created does not make a partnership succeed. You need the courage to take things forward, to overcome uncertainty, and to invest the energy in engaging with the partners and working with the partners on joint decision making along the way. And that does, believe me, that does require some courage, because you feel like you're stepping back from what you want to achieve. But actually what you're doing is creating more of a buy-in into a joint objective. And that, I mean, the success that can come out of that is more than the power of 1 + 1 = 3. And that's, you know, these are points that I want to get across. And if you're equipped with these things in your back pocket, you can move forwards. And I mentioned we'll be launching this online training course on an introduction to partnering. And that, I hope, will feel like, for the people that take that course, will feel like an injection of confidence to be brave in partnership and to take it forwards as well.
Certainly, you mentioned courage, and I take this opportunity to invite our audience members to not shy away from offering Andy your questions, your feedback. We have our Headspace community app where we'll be collecting questions to be forwarded to Andy for him to address. At the same time, you mentioned, you use the words principles and values a lot. I think it's very important to lay those out in a very honest manner when entering a partnership, not to have the goalposts change throughout the actual partnering stage. I mean, that's something that causes a lot of stakeholders to lose trust in each other.
That's right. That's right. And there are lots of things that one can do to make partnering easier and more successful. And that requires an investment of time, but it's not difficult. We've all partnered in our lives. Once you achieve a certain level in your professional experience, in your first job, you have partnering experience. You may have called it something else. You may have called it collaboration, or you may have called it teamwork or whatever. But you can learn from that experience the pros, the good, the successes and the failures that you've had. And if you're honest, your next experience will be even better. And I think that's the main lesson that I would like to get across here, is that anyone can do it. There are some things to think about. I'll give you an example of something we haven't talked about. When you're thinking about an objective, you want to create a partnership because you want to achieve something, okay? The first mistake that we tend to make is not defining that objective in a way that makes sense to others. Once you've done that, you're on the path to bringing others on board, but you need to remain flexible, because they may have a different interpretation of the words you're using in your objective. And that's the first part of the buy-in process. You've attracted some potential partners on board, you're looking at the objective. Now together you can validate that objective, you can reframe it, rephrase it, be more ambitious, be more realistic, but that creates a buy-in. That process of just looking at the objective, just a few words on a statement of what you're all trying to achieve, can build trust, create openness, transparency. You can build your partnership principles around that, and you can then design your plan of action based on a common understanding of what that objective is. So it's a very simple step that joins the synapses of the partners involved. The second one that anyone can look at more carefully, and that will solve a lot of problems down the line, is scoping potential partners. And what we tend to do, it's natural, we all do it, and I do it even today, but I've learned to question myself about it, is take the low-hanging fruit. Take the first partner that the biggest name of an organization that's available, and because they've shown willingness to collaborate and leap into a partnership with them. But they may not be the right partner. That opportunity, because it's so easy in itself, should ring alarm bells. Or at least you should take careful assessment. Now, come up with your own criteria, and this is separate from your principles, but related to them. Come up with your own set of criteria of what you're looking for in a partner. What is a benefit from a partner? What kind of resources are you looking for? But also, and that's quite typical, but also what kind of behavior do you expect from a partner? What kind of history should that partner have or not have? And here we start looking more into due diligence. And it doesn't take long to do this and to scope around those criteria. And there are organizations that can help do that for you as well. So there's always organizations that can help you with scoping partnerships, helping you frame what you're trying to achieve through a partnership, providing you and the other partners with coaching or mentoring support, providing the group with tailored training on how to collaborate in that particular partnership or generally in partnerships, and even how to use that process of partnering for your individual benefit. You know, does it require a communication campaign to draw attention to what you're achieving, and so on and so forth? So yeah, there are things that you can do. You can make it more complex, but there are some steps to take that will make it simpler in the long run as well.
Fantastic, Andy. So many great tips, and more than that, great questions as well that, you know, people who want to enter partnership need to be asking themselves. I think so many times we see organizations enter into partnerships solely with the financial gains in mind. The balance sheet is the only thing that they're concerned about, and then they start getting into a lot of other things that disrupt the business interests.
And Nigel, it's really important to recognize that there are different types of partnerships, and they're suitable on different in different situations. Now, we've identified in this sector, and when we're looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, NGOs or non-profit organizations tend to look at philanthropic contributions or philanthropists as being partners. And I'm not saying they're not, they are, but they're a particular kind of partner. And it's very transactional. It's one way. You come up with a project, you go to somebody and say, can I have some money from you to do my project? And they say, yes, great. In return, we want you to give us a report or something to that effect. Now, yes, that's a kind of partnership, but be careful, because there are other kinds of partnerships that can help you achieve much more as well. The other side, you know, we'll just move up the scale if we have time. Moving up the scale, you have commercial partnerships. Now, commercial partnerships may be where a company looks at a client they're selling to as a partner, or another organization in their supply chain that's manufacturing products for them may be a commercial partner. Those philanthropic and commercial partnerships need to be treated in a slightly different way. And then you have, and we're getting into our own definitions of what types of partnerships there are. We talk about collaborative partnerships. And then the next level of engagement is a strategic partnership. And then the next level we talk about is an advanced partnership. Now, a collaborative partnership might be something, Nigel, where, say, you and I would agree to help children's education in India. You will provide with training in certain schools, and I might go ahead and build new schools. We're both collaborating on improving education, but we're doing it jointly in parallel. rather than closely knitted. A strategic partnership might be a little bit closer, tighter. It would be, okay, Nigel, if I build the schools, I'm only going to build them if you can provide the training. And then we both go out and advertise to children to get them to come to the school. That's more strategic, and we set out to do that over a period of 5-10 years together. An advanced partnership has a very careful investment in the partnership itself. So there will be continual evaluation of the partnering. There will be the promotion and encouragement of others to partner. And we might find out that actually, I'm probably not the best organization to be building schools. So I will be able to step out, and we could both propose alternatives and more appropriate partners to step in, and maybe building the schools is not necessary. Maybe what we need is another partner to help redecorate or renovate existing schools, and that you provide a certain kind of training and somebody else will provide a different kind of training, but it's continually assessed and improved over a period of time.
Some great examples there for our audience members, all the different types and I guess requirements as well for all these different partnerships. Now, Andy, we've covered so far the fact that your organization will be launching an online course to provide more confidence, give that injection of confidence to individual partnerships. We've covered a lot of the work that is required, and including the partnership brokerage that you do. A lot of this involves still human expertise. And I'm just wondering, with the advancement in technology and with AI and machine learning being used in so many other fields, do you see these technologies improving, disrupting this field of work, i.e. partnerships? Are there any innovations that you are already aware of that you see bringing such empowerment?
Yeah, very good question. And the instant answer would be yes. How can machine learning and technology not have an impact on every aspect of society? And it will, and it does. And already we're seeing that during this COVID-19 crisis, moving to online engagement is, we're becoming more used to that. And that will be happening more. And the tools are already developing to allow that to happen in a constructive way. And also around a partnering framework. So at the moment, when we're using a proprietary system for a face-to-face engagement like Zoom, for example, we have webinars, we have breakout groups, and we have the meeting discussions themselves. But when you're looking at a partnership and how a partnership works, those tools can be, or new tools, can be adapted to support engagement within a partnership framework. And we work with two partners in particular. One is a spin-off from CERN, and it's called Gluinet. And Gluinet is working with us using artificial intelligence to map partnerships and to evaluate partnerships so that we have a greater understanding of partnerships. And the other partner we work with is called Shapeable.ai. And they develop tools to help organizations that run networks to be able to collaborate and to feed the partnerships with content as well. There's another one of our partners, the Learning Loop, based in the Netherlands, and they have an approach that helps organizations involved in partnerships fill in forms, and you have an understanding of the perceptions of the partnership and which areas need to be improved. So those are small examples, and there will be, as you know, Nigel, you know better than I do, there will be surprises around the next corner about how artificial intelligence will help partnering. But what you have, and this is quite clear, is you have a number of partnership experts that have come up with partnering frameworks. And within those frameworks, each aspect can be supported with technology. And that technology can be traditional or it can be new technology. But the distinction that's always important to remember, it's not the technology that's going to help a partnership. It's the investment of time and energy and attention to the partnership that's going to help the partnership work. The technology is it's just another tool in the armory.
Indeed, the technology is just something to make the process more efficient, something to reduce errors. It certainly, as has been said in all other fields, technology doesn't replace the human touch. It merely adds to it and aids it. Now, if I may just ask, Andy, you have a very colorful background, to say the least, in terms of your experience across various organizations. I mentioned earlier the UN, the World Economic Forum. I mean, what inspired you to journey on this pathway? I mean, not everyone, as a 7 or 8 year old thinks, oh, one day I'm gonna go get myself involved in the field of partnerships.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, I ask myself that all the time. It's been actually a very natural process for me, and before the two experiences you mentioned, I also worked for 12 years in an armed conflict mediation organization. And I used to explain to my friends, when they say, what does that mean? What do you do? And it's all about bringing people together and helping them achieve a common goal. The reason I set up my own organizations to do that is that my experience of working in these other environments, however great they might be, it was born of a sense of frustration. The frustration that I discovered in the armed conflict mediation world. What we found was that there were lots of academic institutions out there studying armed conflict mediation and analyzing it to the nth degree, but there were very few doing it. And so we recognized those experts, and we decided to become more of the boots on the ground. So we would literally learn from that academic experience and implement it. And that's what I felt was needed with this partnering world. And with a lot of people were studying partnerships and partnering and publishing on it. A lot of people were convening people as well. But what they weren't doing was joining those two disciplines together and saying, we need to achieve something when we convene people. I'll give you another example, an analogy. It's like having a communication strategy, and your communication strategy is to raise profile. Convening people for a conversation is similar to that objective, in that it is too simple. A communication strategy should be embedded into a project. It's what are you trying to achieve with that project? And in the armed conflict mediation world, we discovered that our communication strategy was about managing communications around 18 confidential projects. So you can see that raising profile was the completely wrong way of doing it. So every time we had a communications activity, it was to achieve a certain objective. When you're convening people in a conference or in a meeting, think about what is the objective you want to achieve, what's the outcome, what's the action-oriented deliverable that you want to happen because you're bringing people together. And the academic world around partnering gives you a good framework for doing that. And by joining the two disciplines together, you achieve that. Now, we're planning, this is the first announcement of this, we're planning a conference called Step to a Better World, a Call to Action, in December 2020. And Step to a Better World stands for Sustainable Societies, Technology and Innovation, Environment and Nature, and Partnering. And we're pulling those together, and every session will be output oriented. And we're actually now looking for partners to help us deliver on this, but sponsors, exhibitors, champions, thought leaders, and people to help put together the sessions themselves in a similar way, I guess, to what you're doing with this Inspired Conference initiative as well, Nigel. So we'll be doing that in December in order to have the impact, and that's why I got involved in this. It's because I don't think I can create a better world alone. I can only do it if I'm working in partnership with others, and if every action and every step we take is a deliverable, then we're moving a step closer to delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. If we don't do that, we're simply talking and talking and talking while the world is disintegrating around us. And hopefully that's not too negative a point. I think that there's a positive aspect to this, in that we can make a positive achievement by working together.
Indeed, Andy, I think we share the same outlook, in that there is a lot of talk around, but it has mindset shifts, paradigm shifts, not just a lot of buzz generated around every webinar or every conference. And I think, given, first of all, thank you for using the Inspired Conference as a platform to announce your event in December. We most definitely be willing to engage, to support in any way, shape or form. And I think for our audience members as well, this would be a fantastic opportunity to learn more about not just the work that Andy and his organizations do, but also the fields that he has mentioned. You can see with the Inspired Conference and with the STEP Conference that Andy has mentioned, these are holistic events that cover various themes and various sectors, and definitely show the need for partnership. I mean, there are 17 SDGs for a reason, and organizations should not just take one SDG and say, let's aim for that one, but rather to see how you can contribute to as many as possible in the work that you do. Now, Andy, you mentioned earlier you have access to associate partners, some of the best talent in the world. And if I may just ask a hypothetical question, if you had unlimited funds to go with that, what would you see as the biggest opportunities in the partnerships realm?
I think that there are ways of bringing the power and the influence of the private sector, multinationals and locally, the SMEs, and to reshape the way they operate so that corporate social responsibility is not a small department, but that it is a core business rationale. Because these are the major stakeholders in communities at whatever level, whether it's a large employer, whether it's the woman at the market stall in Nairobi, or whether it's a multinational like Salesforce or MasterCard. The power and influence that they have and the stake that they have, because they employ people that live in these locations. They have friends and family that live in vulnerable locations, and that we're all vulnerable to all the issues that have been highlighted in the Sustainable Development Goals. That motivation can be harnessed and built into the core of business approach. Then I think we'll be in a better world already. And if anybody is willing to provide these unlimited funds, Nigel, then I'm sure that on Tuesday next week, we'll have solved all the world's problems.
Definitely. And if I may end with my final question. So beyond this STEP conference that you're organizing in December, how else do you see you, your organizations, your associate partners innovating and provoking a shift in mindset in the next year or so, given the flux that the world is going through?
So, so aside from providing advice and support for partnering itself, we're providing also platforms for the sharing of experience around partnering as well, so that the constantly accepted fundamentals are always being challenged, and that we can all adapt and learn from the successes and the failures of each other as well. And hopefully that we don't have a single framework for partnering, but we can adapt to different partners, different locations, different objectives, and a changing world in which, as I learnt in Davos quite clearly, the cascading effects of actions and effects in one location and in one sector can be felt all over the world. So this is no longer a siloed approach to the world in which we live in. We have to find ways to work together and to learn from each other, continually share that experience, and then we can move forward in a positive way.
Certainly, we have seen how COVID started off as a healthcare situation, and now all different sectors across various industries have to be looking into how we join forces in tackling this issue. And before I thank Andy, if I might just take this opportunity to also make an announcement to audience members, we are partnering with this organization called Family Mask in Hong Kong. The founder will be speaking later today on day 5, giving our closing keynote. Family Mask will be sponsoring free face masks to assist with the COVID pandemic that we are all facing. And this is inclusive of free international delivery as well. So all you need to do, to all our speakers, to all our audience members, is to nominate through all our different platforms, whether it's the community app or even the Google form below this video. Nominate a non-profit of your choice. We have 2 different options for you to choose from. We have the entirely free option, where we are supporting organizations related to cancer and cancer research. The masks will be pink in support of Breast Cancer Month. And we also have the option where these face masks are partially sponsored, so offered at a very low price. And this will be offered to any non-profit, so not just those who are involved in cancer research. So please do look out for the announcements and the promotional material that's going around throughout the conference web pages. So with that, Andy, I think we have demonstrated another good example of how partnerships can change the world. We started off wanting to organize a conference, and now hopefully we are getting free face masks to organizations in need across the world. And I'm sure, in the work that you do and also in your upcoming conference, you see a lot of such great examples as well. And it must be so fulfilling, to be able to experience that.
Yes, it's very fulfilling when you're living off the successes of others because you're helping them to collaborate and to partner. But it is very fulfilling to feel like you've contributed to that. And Nigel, thank you very much for the opportunity and the platform to get these, what I think are quite important points across to the audience. And we look forward to hearing from people who've heard this and to building relationships and partnerships with the people out there as well for a better world. Thanks very much, Nigel.
And with that, thank you so much, Andy, for your time and for contributing to this session. To audience members, we look forward to your feedback and your questions for Andy. Thanks again.